I just watched both seasons of The Spectacular Spider-Man, and I have so much to say. But first off, before we get into the video, just want to put a little disclaimer up here that, like, I'm obviously not the first person to ever review this series. I definitely won't be the last person. So stuff you hear me say, you've probably heard before, or other people might have said in the past. So I don't know if anything I'm going to say is necessarily going to be considered, like, groundbreaking or extreme nuanced takes on the show. But I do want to give my individual perspective and history with this show. So stick around if you're here for that. I'm also going to rank it on the tier list that I've been doing. Start off with my history for the show and like where I was at like going into this is I originally watched Spectacular Spider-Man, I want to say about a year ago or 2 years, like for the first time. And like I know for like a Spider-Man fan, like why have I not seen a Spectacular Spider-Man? And like I was told like online and like I saw on discourse and stuff that like there's a bunch of hype behind this show and it's considered to be like the best Spider-Man animated series. And I gotta say, like, spoiler alert for the tier list, I agree. The short 2 seasons that this show has is by far some of the best Spider-Man media we're ever gonna get. And so to say that like putting this anywhere on the tier list, I'm just gonna go ahead and put it on right now, like spoiler alert for the rest of the video, but like this is an S tier. This show is phenomenal. So let's just get that out of the way right now. No thoughts on where this is going. We're throwing it straight to the top. So back to my history with this show. I didn't watch this show when it first came out, like the Ultimate Spider-Man or the 90s Spider-Man when I was like a little kid watching the show. So I didn't really understand the hype and everything. I was kind of burnt out around Spider-Man whenever the show originally came out. And so I went on a trip to Washington, D.C. and it was like a 15-hour plus car ride. And it was right when the show got put on Netflix. So I knew like I had nothing better to do besides just sit there and watch all 26 episodes of the show. And this again was about, I think it was in 2021. So it was about a little over like 2 years ago. And I fell in love with the show within the first episode. I was a little hesitant going back to like revisiting everything from Peter Parker like back in high school because we've seen that so many times, and everyone besides like the new comic that just came out puts Peter Parker in high school or college. I prefer him like getting his powers like senior year, get like one maybe 2 years of Peter in high school and then throw him into college where he can like have more mature relationships and stuff. But that being said, I fell in love with the show. And so one of the big takeaways I have now after watching the show for a second time, all 2 seasons, is like I really enjoy that everything is done by the books. There's so many nuanced takes and different perspectives that we get with Spider-Man in media nowadays because there's so many different adaptations, right? I just reviewed Spider-Man Unlimited and that's a crazy interpretation of Peter Parker and like the whole Spider-Man character. So take the Homecoming trilogy for example. If you ask everyone, like Harry Osborn is supposed to be Peter Parker's best friend, but in that trilogy, it's Ned Leeds. Or The Amazing Spider-Man, the 2 movies that you get, Harry isn't introduced until the second movie, and he instantly becomes like evil, right? So we didn't get to spend a whole lot of time with those characters in like the popular movie versions that we've got. So going into Spectacular Spider-Man and seeing everything laid out right in front of us early on by the books is a very nice fresh of breath air. We see Flash Thompson, Liz Allen, MJ, Gwen, Peter, of course. You get old Aunt May. Uncle Ben's already killed off. We don't have to see his origin story until it's in a version of a flashback later on in the series. Did I say it? We get Harry, we get Norman, we get Doc Ock, Dr. Connors. All of our characters were thrown in and introduced to right at the very beginning of the series. That way, as the series goes on, we can move and evolve with these characters and see their motives and their relationships and everything they're going through evolve over time rather than like what happened in Spider-Man 3, for example. Eddie Brock's introduced, and like comic book fans and Spider-Man fans know, okay, 9 times out of 10, Eddie Brock is going to be Venom. So when Eddie Brock is introduced into a story, we know he's going to be Venom. Like, it kind of, you just know where the story's going to go. But in this version, like, yeah, Eddie Brock is Venom. But we get to see these characters evolve over time. Dr. Kirk Connors is the Lizard, for example, in episode 3 of season 1, but we know where he's going, so that's not necessarily a surprise. But characters like Norman Osborn, who, like, spoiler alert for the whole series, is the main big bad as the Green Goblin, and at the end of season 1, or like in the early on in season 1 and at the end of season 2, there's like this chameleon arc where we don't know if Harry or Norman is the Green Goblin, and it's this really nice take on the characters. But we get to see people like Doc Ock, Rhino, the Enforcers, all, and I mean like almost all besides the Big Wheel, of Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery get their origin stories, and we see them move on and we see their motivation. Characters like Tombstone and Sandman, they're not necessarily like, yeah, they're bad guys, but you see little small moments where Peter is like bonding with them and they agree to disagree on a lot of stuff. And I feel like we don't see like the evolution of these characters in other Spider-Man media. It's like, all right, we're introduced to a bad guy, boom, he's evil now. there's no like black and white difference between any of that. And that's one thing I feel like this show did really well. Like Doc Ock, for example, early on he's introduced as just a scientist, but we see over the course of the show how he evolves and his reasoning for why he becomes evil. And then towards the end of the series, he's just like a blatant maniac, which is like the Doc Ock we love, right? But we don't see that happen all at once. It happens over time, and I think that's the best way to do these characters, because from my perspective and like my opinion as like a big Spider-Man fan, right? The best way to do Spider-Man media and Spider-Man villains are to make those villains impact Peter in a personal way. So yes, he has to defeat the bad guys to like stop killing the civilians or whatever they want to do. Like that's the hero aspect. But the part that makes it more impactful as a reader and as an audience is the fact that these villains have a personal stake with Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So Spider-Man has to go out of his way to like do the right thing, but to also make sure like his personal life isn't at stake. And I feel like a lot of adaptations in recent past have not gone down that route. So it was very good to see that perspective with like Norman Osborn and Harry and the different villains that you get in this series. But speaking of villains done correctly, I don't know if, like, where, I haven't seen a lot of discourse. I wanted to not look at like Spider-Man Reddit or anything revolving the Spectacular Spider-Man while watching this again for the second time, because I wanted to form my own opinion. So I don't know if this arc is considered to be like the best arc of the whole series or whatever, but in my opinion, the Venom arc was my favorite out of all the arcs in the show. I think the Venom one stood out the most. And if I were to write my own Spider-Man like TV show, I would put Venom in probably season 2 or season 3. I would introduce him later on after we see characters like Eddie Brock and Peter Parker like evolve their relationship. Not Spider-Man and Venom, but Eddie Brock and Peter. How you get enough time with those characters where like you see their friendship. Like they're called bros in the show, but you'll see their friendship, but then you'll also see them become enemies, and then Peter gets the black suit, and then Eddie Brock becomes Venom. You get all of that over the course of like a few seasons. That way when Venom finally comes, it's very impactful. I feel like this show kind of speed ran that route, but again, like if you're going to make a Spider-Man TV show, you're going to throw Venom in there, so I don't necessarily blame them, like the showrunners, for putting Venom in early on. That being said, I do think this is the best arc in the show. And one of the things that I like the most out of this is you see the effects of Peter having the black suit, not only fighting like his like verbally with his friends and family, you see the effects that that has on the villains he's fighting. Like there's one scene in particular, which might be the best scene in the whole show, where Peter like falls asleep and says like, man, I wish I like could defeat these villains, but I'm so tired or whatever. And then the symbiote essentially sleepwalks for him and fights the villains while he's sleeping. And you see the way that Peter's fighting these villains is not how Peter normally fights. Like he tries to rip like the vulture's head off, but he has like a reinforced plate on the back of his head so the vulture doesn't die. That's something that our Peter would never do. Or he has this like really fast like spin roundhouse kick right on Doc Ock and then takes the tentacles and is gonna like shove it in his face, but Captain Stacy has to stop Peter. There's a whole lot of other instances in this fight with the Sinister Six of doing stuff that Peter would never do, but the fact that it's the black symbiote, he's doing it instead. And I just think that's extremely impactful. We also see when Peter has the black suit on, how it affects his relationships with others. And Flash Thompson, out of all characters, is the one to like reach out to Peter essentially and is like, hey man, you're treating us bad. Sorry that like we're the only people that care about you and we want you to like be well. I could talk for hours about the relationship between Peter and Flash in other media, but that's one of my favorite relationships, like out of Spider-Man and his friends, is Peter and Flash, because the way I've always seen it is Flash isn't this like brooding bad guy villain that like, or bully that's like here to kill Peter. He's just someone that's always been like, he's like rough with him, looks at him as like a little brother, and is envious and kind of jealous of how smart Peter is, but it does bully him. Like he's not shy from bullying him. I think the adaptation and the Amazing Spider-Man movies get this done really well, where Flash isn't this like mustaching twirling villain. He's just like, he's kind of a douche, kind of a jerk to Peter, but at the end of the day, like when Peter's uncle dies, Flash goes up to him and is like, I'm sorry, man. Or like when Peter in this show gets his symbiote off him and is like normal, Peter goes up to him and is like, hey, thanks for talking some sense into me. And he kind of like gives him a fist bump or whatever and is like, don't mention it, man. But then immediately right after that, like the football guys come up and Flash is like, get away from me, puny Parker. Like he doesn't want to be known that he has a soft spot, but that's just one of my favorite things about like the Flash Peter dynamic, and I think this show does a phenomenal job with that, like in general, just branching out and fleshing out these characters as a whole. I'm almost done with my little tangent about the Venom arc, but getting to see Peter like fight the Sinister Six, and then you see Peter scrambling almost like the Spider-Man 1 route of like, do you have to save MJ or do you want to save like the bus or like the cart full of little kids? Venom knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, so he's tormenting, like he sends flowers to Aunt May. He goes and tries to kill Gwen, which they blue ball us with like the death of Gwen Stacy. Like she falls from like the little inflatable thing and Spider-Man catches her. But the sequence at the end of the arc, getting to see like Spider-Man dodging or like going left and right, trying to figure out what's Venom gonna do. Like he knows who I love. Is he gonna hurt MJ? Is he gonna hurt my friends? Is he gonna like kidnap Gwen, which he does? Is he gonna hurt Aunt May? Like he knows where Peter lives. He knows all of that. So getting to see Peter getting like tormented and like having to choose to go like left and right to see where Flash is gonna attack or where Eddie's gonna attack, I don't know. I really enjoyed that. And so the idea to show Spider-Man's origin story in like a mental flashback while he's overcoming the symbiote inside his mind at the end of season 1, that's awesome, dude. I couldn't think of that like myself to do that as like a creative decision, but that's awesome. Getting to see, because a lot of adaptations, like you'll get your Spider-Man origin story or you won't. Like you'll get it early on or you'll get like one throwaway line, like kind of what happened in Homecoming, essentially, like, oh yeah, I got bit by a spider or whatever. But in this, like you get to see Spider-Man working in action, and he's not perfect. It's year 1 Spider-Man, so he's making mistakes, right? But you get to see like, okay, this guy kind of knows what's up. This is Spider-Man. He's adjusted, used to everything. Let's go. Let's roll with it. And then like you get the origin at the end of season 1 in the big finale, which is ultimately what stops Spider-Man from becoming evil. And like Venom and Uncle Ben are essentially like the angel and devils on Peter's shoulders inside his mind. It's such a cool concept. Again, this probably isn't anything new for people that have been fans of the show, but for me, like being an adult watching this, like watching a kid's cartoon, getting these like impactful messages and stuff, I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool. Not something completely groundbreaking in like Spider-Man media, but this is probably one of the best adaptations of Spider-Man I've seen in general, period. Quick little things about the show that I really liked are like the character designs. I think Ultimate Spider-Man still has some of the best character designs for the animated realm that I've seen, but the design choices, especially for the villains in this, are very unique and interesting. Like I really like the one that like sticks out the most to me is Max Dillon's Electro, where he has like the tubes on his face and like he gets like the little pointy stars and like the way he throws lightning. I don't really know how to describe it. I'm not an animator. I'm just someone that likes watching cartoons, but like the character designs in the show were really interesting. And another thing that I like about Spider-Man is he's like 5'6" in this show. He's like really, really small. And when you eventually see him in Across the Spider-Verse in the crossover, he is so small. And you see this early on in this series in like season 1 when he fights Rhino for the first time. He is like crawling all over Rhino, and Rhino being this like brooding force, he can't hit him. And I think that just speaks to the fact that like Spider-Man isn't supposed to be this like big guy. Yeah, he's supposed to be lanky and stuff, but in like the comics that I've read, Spider-Man has always been this like compact, smaller guy that is like super nimble and small and quick and stuff, right? So he's super hard to get a hold of. That coupled with his quips, he's just so annoying. He'd be the worst like superhero to fight. The quips though, like Spider-Man in the show is funny, like genuinely funny. Some of the bits are kind of like slapstick where like we're laughing at Spider-Man getting hit by stuff, but Spider-Man in this show is funny.
What do you think, I'm stupid?
Well, you are dressed stupid.
You always wherever I'm doing a job. What do you got? Some kind of spider sense or something?
That's funny you should say that.
But yeah, I could talk for like hours about this show. Just after recently watching it, it's one of the best adaptations I've seen of the character, and Josh Keaton does a phenomenal job. I know he's on YouTube. It'd be cool if he watched this. He's probably not gonna watch this. Definitely won't watch it. But Josh Keaton does a phenomenal job. I saw that there's rumors of Josh Keaton showing up in Invincible season 2 as this version of Spider-Man. I like Invincible. I like Spider-Man a whole lot more, so I'll be super excited if Spectacular shows up in Invincible. That'd be awesome. But I know like the future for the show was eventually to do a movie, and I think they were gonna go to 5 or 6 seasons, and that's a shame that didn't happen. Like I know there's like a petition for Spectacular Spider-Man to get the movie and the other seasons and stuff, and that'd be great. I'm all here for that. But there's something about a charm to this show, not being a miniseries because there's 26 episodes, and like the 90s animated series has like 65, and the Ultimate Spider-Man, or no, Spider-Man Unlimited, and the new animated series, they only have like 1 season each. So this isn't like a mini series, but there's something of the charm to the fact that there's only 2 seasons, because with the 2017 Spider-Man show that I haven't watched, but I'll review next or review soon, that has like 5 seasons. Ultimate Spider-Man has a lot as well, but there's something of a charm of a show that is so good that is so short. A lot of shows and a lot of like Spider-Man media feels like they drag on. A lot of shows will go into, like The Office, they'll go until they're burnt out and no one's really watching it anymore. But this show, it's like, it's short, compact, and to the point. In every episode, you can just put it on in the background, or not in the background, you just put it on and watch it. Like this show, every episode is a banger. Every show, every episode of this, every part of this series is a hit. Nothing groundbreaking. If you're watching this, you know that Spectacular Spider-Man's good. So it's nothing groundbreaking, but there's something to the charm of 2 seasons only, 26 episodes, all of them being complete bangers. And that's it. The show's just compact. It's those individual episodes that there's not a lot of flaws I can think of. The only thing I could think of in this show that I wasn't a fan of would just be like the rushed arc on Venom, but it doesn't feel rushed. I just am not a fan of having Venom be the main bad guy so soon, but it works. So not a whole lot I can say about this show that I don't like. That's really about all I have. I know I've been like rambling and stuff. I didn't script this video either, since this is the first video of me like having a face cam and like looking at you guys. Let me know if you want me to keep doing this or if you're tired of seeing me and want this to stop. But I think this is a new interesting way to make content and I'm here for it. Throwing this on a tier list again, like I said at the beginning of the video, this is an S tier, S plus if I would. I'm honestly, like, I got this bookshelf behind me. This is new, so I kind of wanted to show it off too, but like, it's got some other like Spider-Man stuff back there. Honestly, I want to get the 2 seasons like Blu-ray DVD because I really doubt that they're going to make 3 seasons or more out of this. So to get the 2 like on a shelf just for physical media, I think that'd be really cool. But let me know what you guys think. If anyone out there doesn't like this show, I'll be surprised. Let me know if you love it. Let me know if you hate it. Let me know what you want me to review next. Let me know if there's a different type of content you want me to make. I got all the Dune books back there. I just made a Dune review for part 2. So yeah, let me know what type of content you want to see in the future. I'm open to ideas. Also, please consider subscribing. Don't want to like e-beg for subscribers or anything, but 97% of you guys aren't. So please consider doing so. It helps the channel grow, helps everything out, helps me know that you guys are interested and want to watch these videos. So please do that. That's about all I have for now. Take care.